Starkiller is probably one of the most popular EU or Legends continuity characters in all of Star Wars, and for very good reason. He's interesting, motivated, and of course, very powerful. But how powerful is Starkiller exactly? Some fans cite him among the most impressive Force users in all of Star Wars, and others as a rampant, unrefined failed apprentice. So which is it? Welcome to Star Wars Explained, where in today's topic, we will attempt to answer that very question. Of course, over this video, I will not be able to discuss all of Starkiller's powers and feats, but I will touch on some of the big ones. I want to point out that I have grouped both Galen Marek from the first Force Unleashed game and novel, and Starkiller from the second Force Unleashed game and novel together, as they are genetically identical and their powers are on par with one another. First, we should start from the beginning. The first we encounter Starkiller or Galen was on Kashyyyk, where his father was slain by the hand of Darth Vader. What is fascinating here is before Vader killed Galen's father, he asked him where his master was, as he sensed someone far more powerful than the Jedi nearby. Of course, we know following the death of Galen's father, Vader and the rest of us discovered it was actually Galen Vader was initially sensing. Based off of this, even an untrained or minimally trained Galen was shown to have the connection to the Force of at least the typical Jedi Master, particularly in the light side. Not to say that he was as powerful as them at that moment, just that he held a particularly strong connection to the Force. Following these events is probably the biggest thing that has contributed to Starkiller's powers, his years and years of training under Darth Vader. Starkiller took this time to attempt to harness all of his inherent power and become as capable as he could be, and although Vader was not there all the time to personally train him, he did have his training droid Proxy and various training programs that helped craft him into an explosive, powerful Force user and master of the lightsaber. During this time, Starkiller was also formed into the type of Force user he would eventually become. Starkiller never trained to feel peace in the Force, or to learn how to manipulate others and climb the ladder of power. He was trained to be a full-on warrior, and thus became so. His most impressive attributes came from his power over the Force. He was actually only 17 at the time of the first game, and had great control over not only abilities like Force Push, but also more obscure ones like Force Lightning or even Force Repulse. This is almost unheard of in Star Wars, and he used these abilities quite frequently. These powers were no doubt achieved by years of experimentation and practice on his behalf. As a lightsaber duelist, Galen was skilled, but also not the greatest in the universe. I fully believe that without the use of the Force, duelists like Vader would probably be able to eventually take him out. This leads me into my next feat by Galen, that he has not only fought Darth Vader, but defeated him. This is extremely impressive, and to even contend with Vader is something only few have achieved. This being said, there are a few things that contributed to his victory. For one, he was faster than Vader, like, much faster, and this is something Vader can normally stave off, but it definitely had an effect on the overall fight. There is also a key moment in Galen's first fight with Vader that I think gave him a huge advantage. This occurred when Vader was hit with a reactor that was flung at him, and it appeared to damage the Sith quite a bit. Vader also has a pretty significant weakness to Force Lightning, especially at the time of the first game and book, but he eventually took greater precautions for withstanding the ability, in large part due to Starkiller's prowess with it. This is something that definitely showed through in his duel with the Starkiller clone. Starkiller was absolutely stunning in his final duel with Vader, and I don't want to take anything away from him or this fight. I do want to say, however, that I do not believe he would be capable of defeating Vader every single time. As I stated earlier, it is highly commendable, but also very circumstantial, as are a ton of other lightsaber duels. Despite this, Starkiller is in fact a great duelist and Force user, capable of overpowering and killing even Council-level Jedi with his dueling skills alone, but the Force is where he truly shines bright. Starkiller had huge prowess with physical augmentation, especially when concerning his durability, and although a lot of this can be stalked up to game mechanics and exaggerations, they are still extremely impressive. He survived the crippling lightsaber stab wound and then being exposed to the vacuum of space. He also survived falling from orbit onto a planet with relative ease. Suffice to say, he can take huge amounts of absolutely insane and brutal punishment. His skill with object manipulation is also admirable, especially notable when he pulled down a Star Destroyer to a planet from orbit, but it should also be noted when concerning this, it caused him huge strain and the ship was already headed downward. Nonetheless, it is quite impressive. Now we have reached the part of the video I have dreaded, Starkiller's battle with the Emperor. With this, it is extremely important to know the context. Palpatine has always wanted to rid himself of post-suit Vader, always seeking a new apprentice, and as a result, constantly testing Vader. I would compare it to this. Think if a person was promised a brand new Lamborghini, and for years they've always wanted one, and worked for it, but when the car eventually arrives, it's a brand new Mustang rather than a Lamborghini. Still a fantastic car, but not the one they have always clamored for. I think this pretty much sums up the way Palpatine views Vader as an apprentice. Great, functional and powerful, but a shadow of what could have been. The Emperor even says this when he first begins to tempt Starkiller with the quote, "Yes, he was weak, broken, kill him, and you can take your rightful place at my side." Palpatine's fight with Starkiller was a test for the boy, to exploit the true extent of his abilities, and after Palpatine had seen enough and determined he could make a suitable apprentice, he ceased his attack and tempted Starkiller with the option to kill him. I believe Palpatine's goal in tempting Starkiller was to show him he was not truly a Jedi, and that the hatred and anger still flowed through him. I also believe he would have disarmed him if he attempted to strike him down in that moment. This is typical manipulative Palpatine, not only breaking his opponents physically, but crushing their own vision of themselves, and in a way, picking up the pieces and making them what he wants them to be. In the good ending for the first game, after Starkiller refuses the Emperor's offer, Palpatine immediately attacks Ramkota, and Starkiller attempts to absorb the Emperor's lightning. An attack I do want to point out succeeded in killing Galen. A lot of fans constantly mention that Palpatine says Starkiller could have become his equal, and this is in fact absolutely true. But as I have said in the past, just because someone is capable of something doesn't mean they will ultimately achieve it. Anakin Skywalker was capable of becoming the most powerful Force-sensitive ever, but this ultimately did not come to fruition. In closing, I want to say this. Starkiller is very powerful, far more powerful than most characters in Star Wars, and capable of holding his own with the likes of Vader and high-ranking council members such as Mace Windu, but oftentimes fans over-exaggerate his capabilities and place him higher on the totem pole than he should be. The reason I love Starkiller so much is not because of how powerful he is, but who he is. Starkiller was someone who was placed so deep in the guise of the dark side, but was able to pull himself out. He never chose to become a dark side user, that's just what happened, but he was able to change and learn from his mistakes. The real personality of Galen Merrick shone through, and he pulled himself out of the dirt and into the light. Even though the Dark Apprentice of Vader did some unspeakable things, it was never who he truly was, and I believe Galen Merrick is actually one of the most inherently good Star Wars characters we've ever received. Not only are his abilities notable and hold great magnitude, but his resolve does as well. Far more impressive than defeating Vader or pulling down a Star Destroyer, Galen accomplished what many Star Wars characters cannot, breaking free of the dark side and its addictive and destructive hold, and that is why I remember and love Starkiller and Galen Merrick. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and want to see more, please leave a like and subscribe. Also tell me down below how powerful you think Starkiller or Galen Merrick is. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.